There we go. Okay, so hello everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to this webinar on space entrepreneurship organized by SGAC and the IEEE Entrepreneurship Initiative. We're very happy to have here Andrew Maximov with us to give us this webinar, 10 tips that will help you launch your startup or career in the space industry. Thank you very much, Andrew, for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Okay, but first, a few comments about logistics. This webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to SGAC's YouTube channel. We're also live streaming in IEEE Entrepreneurship Initiative Facebook page, and attendees have been muted upon entry to avoid background noise. However, we encourage you to use the chat, the Zoom chat, and also to post any questions you have on the Facebook page, because Andrew will be very happy to talk to you after the talk and to engage in this webinar. Yeah, we will introduce the both organizations that are organizing this webinar, and then our speaker will share with us helpful tips for those who are thinking of building their career or launching a startup in the space industry. We really hope that you enjoyed this webinar. So SGAC and IEEE Entrepreneurship Initiative are both non-governmental non-profit organizations, and SGAC is the Space Generation Advisory Council, and it's a non-governmental, non-profit organization and network that aims to represent university students and young space professionals to the United Nations, space agencies, industry, and academia. It is the largest network of young space enthusiasts with more than 15,000 members from all over the world. And traditionally, SGAC hosts many events all around the world to bring the community together. But in light of the current situation, we have postponed all SGAC in-person events, but we are doing many activities online, like for example, this webinar that we have today. You can check upcoming and past webinars on SGAC webpage and also in the YouTube channel. And for this webinar, SGAC has partnered with IEEE Entrepreneurship Initiative. That is an initiative led by the IEEE Region 8 Young Professionals team that is aimed at the segment of members that avid the entrepreneurship ecosystem. The end goal of this initiative, of the IEEE Entrepreneurship Initiative, has like three ways. It's threefold. The first one would be to strengthen the knowledge of young entrepreneurs by providing them with mentorship, also boosting their network by putting them in contact with the relevant stakeholders, and also getting them global exposure by sponsoring their participation in summits and other entrepreneurship events of the kind. And today we have here with us Andrew Maximov. So thank you very much, Andrew. Andrew is the CEO and co-founder of Precious Payload. That is a space tech startup building software that helps plan and execute satellite missions by taking care of the paperwork, technical analysis, and supply chain management. Andrew is former Tech Magazine editor and alumni of Moscow Engineering Physics Institute with a master's degree in micro and nano electronics, and he was always passionate about space. Before focusing on the space domain, Andrew led several tech companies in the Middle East and North Africa region. Welcome, Andrew, and the floor is yours. Oh, I have to unmute you, yeah.
That's fine, that's automatic though. Cool, great. Thank you so much. I know I have like 40 minutes plus on the presentation, but what I learned through this experience of participating and then hosting different online webinars, I know that the shorter the more concise you make it, the better for the audience. So I'm really trying to make it like 20-25 minutes max, and then I really hope that we will have like a Q&A discussion or something like that, more live experience with the audience, with your help, of course. And yeah, so let's get it started. I can share my screen really fast. Okay, my screen is visible, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Great, so let me present that. Great, so I'll start with just saying a few words about myself. So, you know, it's the first time I present anything to the both communities of the IEEE and SGAC, so I have to establish some kind of credibility. So that's why I will first spend a few minutes talking about myself and, you know, why you have to trust me or might have to listen to me. So here we go. So first, yeah, a few words about what drives our passion at Precious Payloads and what we are doing as a business. So first of all, we are an online software. It means that the software which is available on any browser or mobile device. And our aim is to give this software to anyone who wants to launch anything into space and to basically reduce the cost, time, and risks that are associated with starting a space business. And business here is something that will be like a red line across all my slides and presentation today. We are focusing on teams and enabling the teams who are building the actual business in space using satellite technology. And what our mission is we let the teams concentrate on mission goals. Hopefully those goals are business goals. And whereas we want our clients to, just concentrate on the business case and closing the business case, while we reduce the time that is spent on unproductive things such as paperwork, managing suppliers, or like selecting the right suppliers, or just placing the insurance and all the unnecessary stuff associated with satellite technology. And yeah, a few words about myself. Give me a sec. Let me go back. Yeah. So yeah, on my business side of the things, I was a founder of 2 B2B enterprise software companies over the last decade. I built and sold them, one in 2012, second in 2015. So I do have this experience of building your own company, then selling it to the private equity fund or to the larger company. And I think throughout my career, I really had 2 passions. One was enterprise software. Always, I'm not a coder myself, but I know how software can create value and make people happier and then make their life easier. And second was, of course, space exploration. So it has been over 4.5 years since the day where I said to myself, so I sold my previous company and I said to myself, okay, what's next for me? And then had this idea of, hey, if my passion is space exploration and I know how to build the enterprise software and the business out of it, and how to derive value out of software, what if I could marry 2 of those things and build a global company? Because I like to travel and I like to establish presence or build business across different countries and even continents. So what if I create an enterprise business, deliver value through software, build it within space industry, and build it in a borderless fashion. So not observing whatever barriers they are in terms of different continents, etc. So yeah, and with that idea, I started to explore and dig deeper into the space industry. Before that, I didn't have any connection to space industry. And my hypothesis was that, okay, I would be successful, my first milestone will be completed when and if I will start a company, it will become a startup in space industry. And for me, the credibility stamp would be closing the venture financing rounds from Silicon Valley investment fund. And that would be stamp of approval that, okay, I've succeeded in that. And guess what? That happened just a week ago. So a week ago, we closed our first venture deal with the top Silicon Valley venture firm. And that was the successful end of my first milestone. But again, it just took me 4.5 years to realize that. So it was late 2015. So yeah, the announcement has not been done yet. So you're the first to hear that. So hopefully that will be in the news in a couple of weeks, but more on that later. So yeah, just to show you the journey of when we started. So we incorporated the company in 2017. We started with MVP, the minimum viable product, which is common in software industry. So we just build some small software products that delivers small amount of value and that tests your hypothesis around the value creation that you are contributing in the community. We done some tests in the market and established the right network among the community throughout 2017 and 18. And we launched our first commercial product in January 2019, just last year. That was a commercial, fully fledged product that would charge people for the service it derives. And the MVP was around like, what if we could build essentially a marketplace between the satellites and the launch companies. And essentially what we've done, we went around all the launch companies. We asked them, okay, what do you do in order to qualify the customer as your lead and start working with them on like booking the seat for them on the rocket? They gave us all like custom made long questionnaires around technical feasibility, business case, and like technology readiness of the client's satellites. And then of course, some legal stuff around that. And we converted all those questionnaires into one like essential data model of what a space mission looks like. And we built a really friendly user-friendly interface around that, uploaded it to the website, and then just gave it to the community. People started to search for the launch options through our software, connect directly to launch providers. We started to get the commission from the closed deals. So after we closed, I guess, 7 deals in 2018, the thing started to pick up. So we went through the Starburst Acceleration Program in the program between United Arab Emirates and Los Angeles in US. And with that, we graduated from the Starburst program on December 1st last year. And we kicked off our fundraising for the proper Series Seed round, which started in last November, and ended just last week with closing the round. So has been like full 7 or 8 months of almost full-time negotiations and then fundraising for the company. So yeah, this is where we are now, and this is the end of my establishment of the credibility of myself as the advisor to the community here. So yeah, again, the goal is to reduce the time to market for satellites and satellite-enabled businesses. And this is, again, the red line of the entire presentation today. And let's talk about that more in detail. So later on, I will, if we'll still have time, I will show you what the product looks like. So anyone could go now to preciouspayload.com. You would see here our first public version, so like B2C version of our MVP, which we literally unveiled a couple of weeks ago. So what you can do here, you can select which payload you want to send to space, which orbit you want to select, and then when you want to go, and then just leave your contact details, and then have a free account, and then you will get the actual like launch schedule that we update manually via our connections with all the launch companies. And then it will give you the for free, it will give you all the idea of prices, and then the launch schedule, which is updated every week by our team of analysts. And so that's our like first B2C product. We're trying to unlock the information that is being held across all these brokers and then all these consultants, and make it available for the community for free. And this is just a start. So you can expect this product to be updated every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks you will see more and more features coming to this B2C product on our website. So feel free to play with that while you are listening to my boring presentation around lessons learned. Anyway, let's go back to slides. Yes, I've done the product demo. And now I have to say that the 10 lessons that I'm going to talk right now, those are, I call them anti-hype lessons, because again, I lived through this experience from, surviving through this imposter syndrome of coming to the industry where I didn't have any connections, I didn't have any idea of, how it works, and then going through the entire cycle of like building, failing, and getting to the nitty-gritty of how this industry works. And so the 10 slides that you'll see next are like the distillation of my personal experience of building the company from scratch, from zero, and taking it to the multi-million-dollar Series Seed round from Silicon Valley Fund. So, and yeah, this is like a lot of things that you'll hear might be controversial to your previous experience. So yeah, just alert, anti-hype, next 10 slides. So let's start. The first one, and this is a really important one. I put it in the first slide. So what I mean here is that you'll hear a lot that there's like a gold rush in space technology. You hear a lot of words about, hey, this mega constellations by OneWeb and SpaceX are driving the market, and then now is the right time to like go and build the companies. We're all going to be rich, like asteroid mining, etc. It's so good. the reality is that there's no rush. Like a lot of things, like a lesson that we learned about the space industry is that what really drives the space industry is what we call a Vanity Fair. So a lot of investments and decisions and support from the government comes not from the fact that it's a sustainable business model, but rather than the fact that someone wants to belong to something special around, space technology and space, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lot of things that you see around the gold rush and et cetera, et cetera. It's like hype driven, right? And what it means is that a lot of businesses and startups and companies, what they do, they tell to their teams and to the investors, and the way how they rationalize their decisions, that they're saying, hey, there is a lot of gold diggers. So a lot of companies are early adopters in the field, and they're trying some approaches and some business models. So our business model is going to provide pickaxes and jeans for them. So we're going to build tools for them, like while they're testing something else. So guess what? Since there's no rush, or there's different hype cycles, right? So now it is going to be the crisis, the global economic crisis. So the hype cycle would end. So, and I believe that those companies that built their business model entirely or solely on selling the tools for others to try something, they will not survive. I think that if you want to pose yourself for the long-term success in your career or in your startup or the company, you have to really start working with end results of the satellite data. Like you have to look on what non-space application could be solved or could be amplified by using your technology, satellite technology, or space domain in general, but not solely say, hey, I'm going to build the good examples are propulsion modules or rockets or some satellite buses for someone else. Let someone else solve the problem of building a sustainable business model. I'm just going to support one with propulsion module. This is a bad decision. It might look good short term, but over the longer run, it's not sustainable. So that's number one. And to extrapolate on that, what I see often is that someone comes with the idea or some MVP of a technology, be it a propulsion module, again, a satellite bus, or some physical effect or magnetometer or sensor, or whatever. And they're so passionate about technology that they're saying, okay, give me money or grant or government support or whatever, so I can build this technology to the real device and then send it into space, and then we'll figure out something. And then when they go through iteration cycle of, no, it's not going to work, what is the market for my thing, and then who is going to use that, they often come with artificial slides on the market size, hey, this propulsion module can be sold to all these companies who are trying to build something else using our technology because there's gold rush, et cetera, et cetera. And that becomes their obsession, and that becomes their they're simulating the business because they're so passionate about the technology that they have. And what I advise here is that you have to go through almost a rabbit hole of asking yourself a question, okay, if I build this, what this will enable others to do? If I have a propulsion module, then, okay, the short answer, I'm going to sell it to the Earth observation companies. Why they need to buy that? Because they're going to change the inclination of their orbits. Why it's important? Because they can serve more customers. Okay, who are those customers? Those are precision agriculture companies in Asian countries, whatever. Okay, what can I do to, go directly to those precision agriculture companies and try to solve their problems instead of building a solution for someone who is building satellites somewhere up in the supply chain. So always go through this rabbit hole of asking, okay, what my technology can enable, who can use the technology, who can use the service that is derived from the technology, and almost go down to the end user and start working from there. Because again, remember the first slide, sustainable business model is working with the end consumer of your data and not with the intermediates in the supply chain of just building the hardware. This is a really, really special one. And I really encourage people to think about. Next, those, like the next ones are going to be much easier. What I often see in the space community is that, again, someone like reads the internet or like, watches some YouTubes, and then he comes up with the idea, and then that idea again just becomes the obsession. And then what I see here is that the pattern that I see here is that people always like look at the space industry as like something, that is like a miracle, and then, things there can just change with a click of a button or whatever. The reality, again, the actual reality is that space is a traditional business-to-business environment that works on the framework of traditional B2B business through the conferences, exhibition, the enterprise companies, big companies, small companies, and you establish a trust through credibility, through some, white papers, etc. Second, the space industry is defense industry. So not almost, in every country, it is heavily connected with dual use applications, and it's heavily connected with the governments and defense contractors, etc., etc. So it has much bigger barrier to entry, even if you are building just a new space, startup, whatever. Like, always remember that the community that you're going to work with is defense related, right? That's the reality. And that's where what I advise here is that I encourage you to come up with the idea, but then challenge the idea through your network. Like, always work on the network first, and the communities like IEEE and JC, and then ISU, and then the SEDS, and then all the communities around the podcasts and Reddits are great places to start, because that's where you can just bump off your idea through the community, and then get their feedback and understand where you have the market fits, and get hopefully the connection to the end users of your perceived application. So always, like, again, this is B2B community. Your network is your asset. So use it to generate ideas, and then again, go to the rabbit hole through cycles of rabbit hole, and then go to the end consumer of your data, because that's the main goal here. So next, what I often see is that don't just do the startup for the sake of launching something to space, please, because 70% of the companies that I encounter and I work with, they just say, I have this sensor or satellite bus. All I want to do is launch it to space, and then I'll be happy. And then they, when you probe them with whether they understand the business case around their service or products, they have like zero understanding even what I'm talking about, right? Remember that if you want to build business, or you want to like create some value, the whole framework of like lean startup, and then unit economics, and then product to service, product market fit, etc., the whole framework, which is, for example, provided for free by Y Combinator Startup School at startupschool.org, is entirely applicable here. There's nothing special about here. So you always have to think about the product market fit, your market segments, how do you sell that, validate that, hypothesis test, etc. So don't think that just launching something into space will give you startup success. And there are many examples where people actually find government grants or even commercial investors who invest into the idea of just launching a satellite. But unfortunately, again, this will give you the simulation of the company, but that will not give you the commercial success and sustainable business down the road. So next one. Come on. Would work? No? Yes? No? Sorry. Okay, the next one. It sort of like connects with the idea of building a network, but don't think that you can build your startup or idea or develop your career from your bedroom. So what I'm trying to say here is that, again, living in this B2B defense community, you always have to know people and establish a trust relationship with them. And this business is driven through personal connections, be it your investors, your government representatives, your other universities, etc. So because also sort of an MVP of the product here often heavily relies on actually sending something to space, it means that you have to have like multiple expertises within your team. And it means that if you are trying to, let's say you're trying to build the Earth observation company, not only you have to understand the whole space domain and understand how to build and operate the spacecraft, you also have to have almost a separate company that will develop the IT product and then learn how to sell that IT product that derives the value out of your satellites you've built. So this is just not feasible if you're doing that alone. So what I'm trying to say here is that you have to build the business on collaboration among different companies. And it means that you won't be successful if you just try to like do the startup or build the product from the comfort of your bedroom. So you have to go beyond your comfort zone, work with others, establish collaboration across different companies. Next one. Next one is going to be, I know what it's going to be, but for some reason it doesn't click here. So it's going to be about the government support. So again, it is true for most of the countries. Most of the countries, they love space startups and they love jobs created by space companies or space projects within universities. So they would provide you support and you have to leverage it. Always think that, always keep this in your mind that all your competitors or other projects, they are using government support. Maybe they're not like vocal about that, but just know that and know that if you're not doing that, then you're missing on something that your competitors do have. So whether it's in Europe, Asia, or America, South America, or elsewhere, always think what can you do with your government to leverage their support. It might be not direct, it might be not like from Space Council, but it might be like from startups, OneSat, etc. Again, just remember that government they do love space jobs. Next one is that leverage that to build commercial business, but don't have your government as your only business model, because dozens of companies that I spoke with, their business model, despite the fact that they might be not vocal about that, but if you actually talk to them and look at their projects, their entire business model revolves around like more grants and government projects, etc. Again, this is not sustainable. This will at some point end, and you will not have a sustainable business. So again, leverage government support, but not have it as your sole source of income, as your only source of revenue. Next one. This slide has been with us since day one, but it's much more applicable and important in the situation that we are now with this pandemic situation. So the reality is that space industry is extremely fragmented. So there are like, every country has its own clusters, like space cluster, and then has its own barriers for the foreigners to penetrate their market. And it means that the talent pool and the like revenue pools, your customers are locked and enclosed inside those space centers globally. And you cannot afford to be, this is really a big insight that's, a leverage for the entire building of the startup. You cannot become successful if you are a local company. Always from day one, think as a global company and think, what can I do with my business in the way I sell and build my product so I can cater for the entire world, entire space community. If your customers are space industry, always think how you can serve them globally and not locally, because space industry is, especially new space industry, is very small. We're talking about several hundreds of companies and probably 2,000 people that you have to work with if your supply chain or your customers are within the space industry. So again, leverage global talents, because they will also lower the barriers for you to enter their like local space scene, and build remote first teams from day one and establish a culture within your organizations. And two more. So one would be, if that would work. So the next one would be, I still remember that. Yeah, remember that there's this notion about, okay, if I want to do career in space, or if I want to build business in space, I have to be like a space engineer, right? Or like I have to be knowledgeable about orbit dynamics or be a mathematician or whatever. It's actually not true. I know very passionate driven and successful companies that are doing legal services for the space industry. They're just doing design or, like content marketing for space industry. There are crypto startups in space industry, like Space Chain, for example, which now has offices in Singapore and UK, which are quite successful. So you don't have to be only engineer. So if you are passion driven, if you're passionate about space industry, then you could just leverage your talents, leverage your skills, and then build a business on top of whatever can be applicable in space community. And the last one, this is also a great like anti-hype sort of start conclusion, that you have to be really, in order to succeed in the space industry, you have to be really passionate about space industry. And it might seem obvious, but the painful truth here is that if you just look at the speed and the pace with which the space industry works through its hype cycles and then through different business cycles, and if you just look at the sales cycle of typical deal in space industry, it's more than 8 months, which means that if you want, for example, if you want to build a startup, exit the startup, or like build a startup and go through these milestones of fundraisers, it's at least too much slower than in any other adjacent industry, especially like if you just consider any like IT or tech or IT product industry. It's much, much slower, which means that your career would accelerate twice as much slower. It means that your startup would succeed and exit two times slower. It means that you really have to deeply connect with your passion about the space industry in order to survive through this double time of getting to the exit, double time to accelerate your career to the next level. Yeah, so those are 10 lessons learned, my personal lessons learned from taking precious payload to the point where we are now. And I invite, so what I do for the community, I host the pitch deck reviews of the companies and startups and university teams that are trying to build something in space industry. And yeah, and we're trying to, again, just shorten the cycle, the MVP cycle for the companies that are trying to lift the business off the ground. And yeah, with our product, again, we can just unlock a lot of information that sits there among the consultants and then brokers, starting with the launch booking. But then we are starting to work on other aspects such as licensing and insurance. And I'm trying to be more open here, and I'm doing the weekly updates in the form of my CEO vlog on the YouTube. So here's a QR code which you can scan, and then it will get you to the YouTube channel. And yeah, so there I'm just doing a weekly video with lessons learned or whatever milestones we've achieved in the product or in the startup. So it's like a startup journey live where you can track our progress. And then, yeah, I'm trying to be as honest with the community as I can, given the extra transparency and visibility in what it takes to take the company to the next level. I'm done talking. It was more than 25 minutes. I apologize for that. And yeah, let's go to the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was very, very interesting. We already have some questions in the Zoom group chat. So maybe we can go through them. The first one, I don't know if you can read them, or do you want me to?
Where are they? Are they in the chat or in the Facebook? Where?
Yeah, in the chat, in the Zoom chat. So Harley asked, how do you create teams of talents who will work with your startup with no immediate compensation, since you're still building up the startup? Tips on talent management on this particular context.
Yeah, that's a very good one. So I guess it's the framework that is applicable to actually not only Space Star, but any other startup. What you do is you reach out to people, and then if you feel like you can do something together, you just offer them to contribute 1 hour a week to like have a call on a weekly basis and exchange ideas, and then probably just see whether you can collaborate together. So like, usually what it takes is that you just start 1 hour commitments. If that's gets you to the next level where you feel inspired by whatever comes up of this small collaboration, then naturally you would expand more and more. So I believe that the strongest teams are built not from a relationship of the, okay, I'm the employer, you are the employee. No, I think that the strongest teams, especially in the startup community, are created by just mutual passion that's derived from you guys spending time together. So that, just continue offer this 1 hour commitment to the network that you feel would be a nice addition to your team, and then just naturally progress from there. That's the best way to start.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question says, how well can young science enthusiastic in space be a part of such technical space startups, and how would you recommend them to connect with such companies?
So can you rephrase that? So what would you do if how do you connect with the space companies if you're not space engineer, or what's that?
Yep, I think so. Maybe we can ask Bas to unmute himself or her to and ask us live. You agree, Andrew? Maybe we can.
Okay, let me try to find this question. Is in the chat. A great team of talents. How well can you in space be part of such technical space startups, and how can you in space, and how would you recommend them to connect with such companies? Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, I got the question. Yeah, I think the advice that I usually give is that, again, I think I'm really fond of the podcasts, and there are 2 podcasts that I'm really, really fond of. So one is the Main Engine Cutoff, and then another one is Orbital Transfers. I think it's called Orbital Transfers. Anyway, I will post it later on in chat. Those podcasts, and also the Everyday Astronaut on YouTube, they have Discord channels for their community. And usually those are the communities of enthusiasts in space that connect with each other. And what's great there is that in those Discord channels, you actually have the actual employees of the startups and then space-based enterprises. And that's where I think that's the best way to connect with them, because it's usually like you have to pay a small fee, like $2 to $5 a month to join, to give a certain barrier. And there, because of this barrier, the members of those communities are really receptive of the new members, and you would just bluntly ask them, okay, whom can I speak here to, and then how can you connect me to other companies? I think that's the best way how to start. Not also mentioning, not forgetting the JC and IEEE memberships that are available as well.
Okay. Can you read the question, Andrew?
Yeah. Before startup in the space industry, do you think we need to have a backup? I think the backup is related to like the typical challenge when you start a startup. Like, what do you do with your main job? I guess that was the question. If that's the case, then yeah, the answer is typical. Carve out time for working on your passion project in space industry. Once you feel that it can take off, or you have some initial traction, or you've built a team that can, probably you can delegate some work to, then that's the time when you can think of leaving your day job and then starting something else. But yeah, like the backup is always, I'll be clearly honest with you that I would not be successful with a precious payload unless I had a working wife, my wife who works full-time in her successful career in sales at Oracle. And she is the silent partner in precious payload, because without her, I would never be able to work on the startup for like 3 years. We have 2 kids, etc., etc. So she's my backup. So yeah, always have a backup. That's a good one. Right. Okay, the next one, the work of NSSTC, the Space Technology in UAE Immersing in Al-Ain City. We do work with them. We are finalizing the project with them literally this week. So hopefully you hear the news in the next couple of weeks. We do have a project with them. We started that, I think, 6 months ago. And now is the time. Remember when I told about the sales cycle being 8+ months? That's the case. We started back in October. We're going to finalize it in early August. But yeah, NSSC are building the satellite, the next satellite, and we're helping them with some aspects of that project. Okay, what kind of backup? I hope I did answer that question. What kind of tools we can offer to space business organizations? Can you, Bilal, elaborate on that? So what kind of tools we can, we as of you can offer to space business organizations? So yeah, I need further, like, can you further elaborate on that? Sorry, I didn't get that question. All right, very insightful response in talent management. Thank you so much for that. Congratulations, you venture funny, by the way. Thank you so much, Harley. I really appreciate that. Okay, Shahbaz, I meant with respect to engineers raising postgrad, especially in space sector. I'm talking with more UAE space sector. Okay. Bilal, as you mentioned, he says, as you mentioned, this business is mostly defense related, so individual can't start without government funded or without defense organization. Bilal, I think that the reality is that it's the enterprise community. It means that if you want to start building, if you want to start doing business with organizations there, you have to establish trust. And usually trust in any B2B environment is built with you going to the places where these people like feel secure, in this case, exhibitions and conferences, and just going there for 1 year and second year. And by year 3, people would start thinking, okay, this guy is like, he belongs to the community, he's part of the community, so maybe I can trust him. But if you just show up and then say, okay, do business with me, I'm a young startup, no one will work with you. Not because this is defense, not because this is space industry, but just because this is traditional B2B environment. So I don't believe that's the case where you're saying that you have to have government funding or defense organization. No, I think this is just the simple equation of building the trust relationship within the B2B community, rather than something else. Okay, the next one, Harley. So I come from the Asia Pacific, and space participation is really ideal and all. But of course, for most emerging space economies, it's not as straightforward as most. What's your opinion on how entrepreneurs from these emerging economies to participate in a new space? Thanks in advance. Asia Pacific. So I don't think there's very little number of countries around the world which are not trying to participate in global space economy in one day or the other. And again, remember when I said that always, like, the equation you have to have in your head is like that. I need to find, so the perfect equation. First, you need to find a problem in a traditional non-space industry that can be solved with the satellite technology or space-related technology, number one. Number two, when you find this problem, this problem has to be a global. Like, if you just say, okay, I'll go to my local government, I'll find that they need some help with the like illegal fishing or whatever. That's not business, unfortunately. That's will most probably will give you a grant, but nothing else. So find the problem in non-space industry. Second, validate that it's global. Third, think of how you can build a global and not a local company that can solve the problem. And only like number 4, think about your local talents and then your local government support. Remember, government support is not it's a supporter, but not an enabler. So I would encourage you to challenge yourself on not thinking of you being based in like Asia Pacific region as the disadvantage. Don't think that this is a limitation. Think that it's an opportunity, because I'm definitely sure that your government and your investors, they want to have some exposure to space. They shouldn't have it. Maybe it's better for you to be a small fish in a small pond, or like a big fish in a small pond, sorry, rather than a small fish in a really big pond, right? That's the case, for example, with UAE. In UAE, I noticed that there is a huge interest of the government towards the space industry, but they don't have space startups. So I thought, should I move to the Silicon Valley if I want to be successful in the space industry and build my company, or can I stay here and become the first and like the fastest and most prominent space startup in the region. So I chose the latter, and then I think it was a success because we got all the attention from the local investors and the government. Okay, the next one. Do we still have time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, from Facebook. So what do you do to get started, and where do you start if there are constraints in terms of collaboration and the means to succeed in your space venture? Well, without naming the constraints, or like without naming the constraints in terms of collaboration and the means to succeed, yeah, like can you, Tiri, I guess that's your name. Can you perhaps elaborate in the chat more on what kind of constraints, what kind of constraints do you mean? And that will enable me to answer that question. Sorry. Okay, Yutam Banik. Can you please tell about space debris? Is it creating any hazards for future safe activity to the space industry? Yes, it does. I think it's a big problem. I know it's a big problem. I know it has to be solved. I'm personally not very passionate about it in terms of business because I understand that it's a very good example of the jeans and pickaxes type of business for space industry. It has to be done. It has to be supported by enterprises, large organizations, and governments globally. I just don't think, and again, I'm not discouraging people from attacking that problem. I just don't think that it fulfills my like personal filter or like passion towards building sustainable business models in space. Because again, I think that the perfect equation is working towards creating a product that will serve like terrestrial business, not space industry. But yeah, important problem has to be solved. What should one do as a newcomer in the space industry to build network? Any platform to start career? As I said, SJC, IEEE, SEDS communities are a great place to start. Later on, you can go to all the Slack channels and Discord channels of your favorite podcasts, and then of course LinkedIn. Also, go to startupschool.org, the Y Combinator Startup School. Go register there, it's free. Go to the directory search and just put satellites there in search, and it will list you like 20 to 25 space startups that are at the idea or MVP stage. And then since they are listed there, they are probably keen to establish new connections and network, and that's where you can start. So we got many clients just from the startup school because those are the companies who are trying to fundraise, and we're there to help to reduce their time to fundraise. Do you, Precious Payload, have any customer in Africa? Not yet, but I would love to because I spent almost 4 years working in Africa. So I did visit like 14 or 16 different countries in Africa. I spent a lot of time in Uganda, Ghana, and then West African countries. So I'm really looking forward to reconnect to African community. So if you, Omolade, if you have any connections or do you know where to start, I left my LinkedIn in the startup chats. Please do connect with me. I will be happy to work on that. Okay, the next one from the same person. Apart from aggregating businesses to customers, is there any other application for space-based SaaS? So again, space-based SaaS, I mean, I think that's the software as a service for the space community. I think that's the, there's a whole like bunch of the companies that are pursuing that as a business model, but it's just like a color of your business. So you could be software as a service, or you could be, I don't know, on-premise software. It doesn't give you a lot of advantage, I would say. But of course, there are mission control as a service. There are operating systems for satellites that work as a software as a service model. There are SAT search, as many different applications and services are built using the SaaS model. Again, this is just one type of the service, but yeah, I think there should be much more of the companies that could leverage that model. Okay, I think the last one. May I know how well has startup industry has risen here in UAE, because you have collaborated with many here. I would love to connect with some of them here to understand the diversity of space startups and look for roles that I might indulge myself in. And suggestions for the same. Suggestion is to, again, just ping me on the LinkedIn. I will connect you to the folks with whom we work here in UAE. It's a small community, but it's growing really fast, and there is a lot of interest from the investors and the government, of course, to establish more companies within the space sector in UAE. And I'm also, I hopefully will be an advisor to the acceleration program that is being held in Abu Dhabi. So yeah, and I'll be happy to help you connect with all the companies. And then if any of you are willing to, explore the opportunities in UAE and Abu Dhabi, especially in terms of like starting or relocating or kicking off your space startup idea in Abu Dhabi, let me know. I will be happy to help and then recommend you to one of the accelerators that I'm working with. Okay, any more questions? Because I'm done with the chat.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think that was it. Oh, there's one last question.
Yeah, from Steve Teal. You mentioned finding problems to solve outside the space industry. What are the categories of problems that satellites solve for business? I think the way I usually explain that is that you have two big applications, or like two big, I would say, means of creating value out of satellites, which probably represent like 80% of all the business cases you might think of. One are cameras, or like Earth observation sensors that take the pictures or videos of Earth in different spectrums. And second are communication antennas. So like between antennas that communicate data for IoT or like internet or whatever connectivity solutions. And the cameras, you have 80% of the business cases that could be leveraged to build the services and products for industries outside of space industry. So for categories of problems, again, probably just ping me on LinkedIn. I will send you a few industry reports and point you to some websites where you can start your journey of exploring different opportunities. Hope that helps.
Sure. Thank you very much, Andrew. This was very, very interesting. I think all the audience is very pleased. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for telling us.
This is exactly an hour. Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that was perfect.
As planned.
Perfect timing. Thank you very
second
much.
To second.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for engaging and connecting today. And yeah, let's keep connected through LinkedIn and the different communities in SDAC and IEEE Entrepreneurship Initiative.
Cool. Let's do it again. Thanks.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.